me a actual copy, like a not the copy, sorry, but like the actual code for the game. Like I have it, okay, and I have yet to download it. And the reason why I have yet to download it is because I have the dumbest reason for not downloading it. Are you ready for it? I don't know how to turn the PlayStation on. I feel like I haven't turned it on in so long. What the fuck? You just do your hair? What the fuck you just do to your hair? What? Nothing. It's wet still. I just got out of the shower. This is what I do every day. I let it sit. Hold the controller PS button. I tried. It didn't work. In any case, it's incredible. Please play it, dog. Just plug in your controller and press the PlayStation button. Anyway, even if I play it, I probably won't play it on... I probably won't be playing it on stream regardless, but... skill issue PS5. Yeah. Okay, you just lie like Nick lied about the stream start button not being on his OBS. Bro, do you use anything in your hair after getting it wet, like a leave-in conditioner? No, I don't do anything. All right, so where was I? What was I talking about? Oh, personal news-wise. Lots of TikToks were consumed. I've been watching this new Fire show. It's pretty good. Fire Watch or whatever. I think it's called Fire Watch. Why do people keep saying hair? What's wrong with the hair? It's fine. It was very cute with the curls, though. That's what the chatter was saying, I think. Okay. This is not a Labubu. This is a OG Labubu. This is a, what is it called? Like an egg, right? I got to Japan a long-ass time ago. And I was like, why don't I put some cute shit on the microphone, you know? A Gudetama. Gudetama. PC Master Race guys shitting on PS5 as they sit on the cuck chair looking at a game that never performs properly because of in-shitification. Yeah, I mean... I love Hideo. Hideo is my goat. Hideo is my king. Hideo is my truth. I will forever love him. I will forever love that quirky socialist man who absolutely loves feet and also meeting celebrities and basically has used his like auteur status in the realm of gaming to hang out with all of his favorite celebrities. I will never be one of his favorite celebrities. I will never be known by Hideo Kojima in a positive way. It makes me very sad, but it's fine. I just keep pushing. I just keep it pushing. It's all good. I will never be scanned by Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima will never scan my feet. Is it Fire Force that you mean you're watching? Yeah, Fire Force, yeah. Based anti-Zionist grandma in Hong Kong. Nice. Harry Anton talks about how the dem opinion on Israel has changed and how it affected Zoran's primary win. I know, we're going to get into that. But yeah, other than that, personal news-wise, woke up this morning. What did I do? You already know what I did. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm hitting the weights, okay? I'm hitting the big boy weights. The big boy weights specifically. Take a look at this. 335 pounds, folks. I just uploaded this. Now, I will say, not bad depth. Like, this is my top set. Right before this, I ripped the 310 for nothing. Like, I ripped the 310 like it was nothing for 6. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do the same mistake. I'm not going to make that same mistake I made last week with the deadlifts and go all the way up to 445. So I just said, you know, it's better to go up a little bit, jump from 310 to 335. Ankle's doing great, as you can tell. Yes, I'm wearing Vans. On the third one, notice that the knees start buckling in a little bit, which is precisely the reason why I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for a fourth because I did 335 for 3 2 weeks ago before I fucked up my ankle. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. I do 385, motherfucker, get your money up, not your funny up. All right, calm down. But this is not going to have a good depth, this last one. This one did not get the accurate depth. We didn't hit parallel on this because I bailed. I didn't want to go further down and risk like actually having to bail. So last one doesn't count, obviously, because it didn't hit the depth. It didn't hit parallel. But, you know, you live to lift another day. Exactly. There's a video on the 9,000 Microsoft layoffs. What the hell? On the Xbox division? That's crazy. I didn't know. What's the shirt you're wearing? Oh, great question. This is the new merch. New merch incoming. The Xbox layoffs are crazy. What is this? The BDS boycott on Xbox is working? No, that's not the reason why they fucking laid off 9,100 people. I think the reason why they laid off 9,100 people is because they probably are restructuring to make more money somehow. Companies don't actually do that. I mean, or boycotts have a tendency to work, but it's probably like AI related shit. You know what I mean? It's like AI related restructuring or something like that. I assume some games will be scrapped as well. Microsoft said AI is mandatory internally now. I hate this country. I hate this world that we live in. It is so disgusting. Oh my Lord, that is so ass, dude. That is so fucking ass. Oh God, gross. Oh, everything is gonna suck even further. As the dumbasses, as the absolute dummies will keep going, this is not capitalism. It's because women are in the fucking games. That's why. It's because they made a black woman play the major role in a game, and that's what it is. Thank you for the playlist. The Macius. Dude, we don't understand the full impact of this like AI evisceration of the job market. Okay? I don't think we fully comprehend how bad things are getting, and I don't think we fully comprehend how much worse they are going to get. A lot of like the last laptop jobs that were available were basically in the tech sector, and now the tech sector is just like gutting its labor force by trying to cut corners and turn everything into AI. God, I hate this. The social contract is already wearing thin. I can't imagine AI takes over everything in 5 years. Scary shit. What are Hasanabi heads up to? What is this? Educating the world about Hassan one deer at a time. This is beautiful and the correct thing to do, I think. Thank you for doing this. I think the deer is responsive also. Like, have you noticed? Have you noticed that the deer seemingly is responsive? Like the deer feels more enlightened. Am I crazy? Maya would disapprove. I don't think so. I don't think she would. I think it's cool. You might need a mod. What do you mean? Why? For what? Auntie is out farming you, Unc? That's crazy. I can't do that. I mean, I'm also a Jokera truther, but like, you know, the extent of which I'm a Jokera truther is, you know. Can you grab the camera for a Lamar Jackson edit? Yeah, okay, guys, I'm 33, okay? And I don't even know which hand it's supposed to be. Is it the right hand? Is it the left hand? I'm on TikTok. I know what these memes are, okay? I know. You go like that. I know. And then you put all the Lamar Jackson, the fucking other hand. I mean, it's my right hand. There. It's not the wrong hand. Unironic, ironic, boomer, camera grab. Shut up. I did both. There you go. Now you have both. All right. Let's get into it. Let's blast off. There's not much else going on. I'm on TikTok. I have Facebook circa 2009 type energy. I mean, I am on TikTok. It's embarrassing, but I am. Okay? I'm on TikTok an embarrassing amount. It's true. And it's really funny because, like, sometimes I like to dive into other political spheres. And on TikTok, politics is very different. Half of the politics is just, like, Dean, Parker, and all these, like, white boys that are still debating, like, Trump supporters and, like, dunking on them. And then the other half of TikTok is always on fire. The left talk is always on fire. They're always yelling at one another, okay? Talking about some Zoran is an asset of Zionism. And then other people are dunking on the person that says Zoran is an asset of Zionism, or you shouldn't be hopeful about Zoran. It's like two sides of the same coin with Trump. And then like there's like so much fucking drama happening apparently on that side of on the TikTok sphere. Like it's crazy. It's craziness. I don't really care about any of this stuff. I don't think there's a lot of motion here. I think it's just like busybody drama to get people involved in silliness, and I see it as a transparent distraction. I see it as a mechanism of distraction, and I don't like it. Federal court just ruled that President Trump's invasion proclamation banning asylum at the border is unlawful. Judge Moss vacates agency guidance implementation of the proclamation, issues declaratory relief that the order is unlawful. Holy moly. Okay, that's some good news. All right, we'll do that. We'll do that. All right. Big booty cheeks bill in going through the House. Will Freedom Caucus stop it? Madeline Pendleton, Center of Universe Drama. I don't understand why people are always yelling at one another on TikTok like that. I mean, I guess I do, because I guess like drama and stuff like that drives clicks for people, but I feel like most of these issues would be solved if people just like got together in the real world, you know, and talk to one another in the real world instead of constantly fucking chirping at one another, especially because like these are people who are ideologically on the same side, and they are so far from the norm anyway, like in the normie sphere of politics, like they are so out there that like the minor disagreements that they have is so negligible, is so inconsequential, it's so insignificant. So I never, do what I do. Just don't fucking talk about it, Don't talk about one another. Talk about eyes on the prize, lock in. Talk about fucking, talk about Republicans or even Democrats that are also a problem. Okay, I fixed it, mystery. I put the T in Auschwitz. Don't worry, I fixed it. Big booty cheeks bill going through the House. Will Freedom Caucus stop it? What is your take on bears? What do you mean by that? I don't know. Federal court, Fed court stops invasion narrative. Diddy acquitted of RICO, still guilty of heinous crimes and more. Get in now. Called it. Diddy would survive for what it's worth. I mean, it seems like they went real heavy with the RICO shit. Like they went a little heavy-handed maybe with the RICO stuff, and it just didn't work. But it's like kind of surprising that it didn't work. It does feel like the prosecution fumbled a little bit, because I didn't keep up with everything. I didn't keep up with everything super close. But from what I understand, there was certainly enough there. There was certainly enough there for a litany of different charges. Like, it's not like it's not like he was an innocent person. You know what I mean? He was not like this infallible innocent person. There were a bunch of people that came out with fairly solid firsthand testimony about what Diddy had done to them, all the way from like his former ex-girlfriends and partners down to like Kid Cudi, And it's actually kind of shocking that in spite of all of that, like the RICO stuff is so heavy-handed that it still was not, like they weren't able to stick it. This is the second time a RICO charge has basically failed now. Did you see Deborah Messing said that Zohran Mamdani cheered for and celebrated 9/11 when he was 9? I mean, that's what they say about me too. They're fucking nuts. Like people are so stupid. Anyway, this is what happens when the DOJ is too worried about immigrants to give a damn about real criminals. Is your leg better? It's fine. The defense attorney destroyed their case. Luigi Sam attorney's not making a value judgment. Yeah, I got the Hakeem Jeffries baseball pick. Don't worry. He's looking so hard body on it. He's looking so hard body. They interviewed a Hassan Abi head on the New York Times. Wait, really? Rij Card. What is this? Many of Mr. Ramdani's supporters seem ready to support him again in November. Richcard Alexis, 31, a Haitian immigrant who lives in East Flatbush in Brooklyn, moved to the city as a child and recently became a citizen. He was excited to vote for Mr. Ramdani in his first mayoral primary and liked his proposal to freeze rents on rate and stabilize apartments. I watched my mother cry when Obama got elected, he said. That hope people had. I fully understand it now. Oh, damn! I was about to say, how do you know? How do you know? Oh, damn! Hassan Abihez, rise up. Rise up. Mr. Alexis said he planned to volunteer to camp. Dude, stud. Stud. Also, dope name. I don't know. Is it, how do you say it? Is it Ricard? Ricard? That's a, bro has a name of a Final Fantasy character. Look at this stud. God damn. Ricard Alexis, 31, a Haitian immigrant, said he planned to canvass for Mr. Ramdani during the general election campaign. Stud. Hassan Abihez, rise up. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Weakest Hassan Abihed. Weakest Hassan Abihed. Crazy. That's sick. I grew a size larger and can't wear that shirt no more. Yeah, well, don't worry. There's always new merch coming out. You can also always cut the sleeves off and turn it into like a gym shirt. That's what I do, usually. You actually convinced me to start lifting. Thank you. Dude, this is what I love seeing. I love seeing community members out in the wild, doing the fucking work, looking brolic as hell. Okay? That's it. It's the best. But did you see Kaya Halud? What do you mean? This is literally my blast off meme. Yes, I saw Kaya Halud. I use it as the blast off meme, chatters. Here it is. There it is. Kai Halud. I wore the Hassan Chicken Tendy shirt at the gym the other day. Hell yeah. You convinced me to live too, and now I'm too big for my union merch tee. You convinced me to stop gaming. Thank you. Okay. All right. You can't help others until you help yourself, okay? You got to improve yourself every day diligently. Work hard on that. And then you can serve your community while serving looks. This is what it's all about. In any case, let's get started. Breaking, mixed reaction, mixed verdict reached in Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial. The feds took a big L on the RICO stuff. Let's take a look.
Getting the verdict coming in right now. This is coming in real time, and we have count one here. This is the racketeering charge. We have the count here of not guilty on racketeering. This is coming in real time. We have count two also coming in here, not guilty. That is the sex trafficking of Cassie Ventura. Count three, we have guilty. Count three is guilty for the transportation of Cassie Ventura. That is guilty. Count four, this is the sex trafficking of Jane. That's a pseudonym. Not guilty. Count five, we have guilty. That is 5 counts. We have a mixed verdict here. Again, count one, as it relates to racketeering, not guilty. Count two, as it relates to sex trafficking, not guilty. Count three.
Is this the OJ situation again? No, dude. No, this is not the OJ situation. This is a dramatically different situation than the OJ one. First of all, there is no like prevailing narrative in the environment. There is nothing like, no, this is not, what the fuck? No.
Guilty. Count four, not guilty. Count five, guilty. Now, we should bring up here, Misty, all of these counts have a range of different sentences, a range of different evidentiary burdens, a range of different outcomes we could have had here, but it is a mixed verdict, if you will.
It's a mixed verdict, but it is a stunning victory for the defense. The Mann Act, these charges, these were the easiest for prosecutors to prove, the lowest hanging fruit, merely required showing that state lines were crossed for the purpose to engage in prostitution. We saw a lot of evidence on these charges, did not have that element, Laura, of force, fraud, or coercion, and this carries the lightest sentence of these charges. It is a maximum of 10 years. And keep in mind, when you're talking about maximums, maximums aren't the rule. They are the exception. They're for the most exceptional and severe cases. So now you're talking about a sentence that's potentially in the lower range with time served because he's been behind bars. The fact that these sex trafficking charges, specifically with respect to Cassie Ventura, means that the jury was convinced by the defense, at least with respect to reasonable doubt, that the commercial sex, i.e. the freak-offs, were not connected to some of this violence, that there was not that force, fraud, or coercion element. That is, by far, from a penalty perspective, the most serious. It carried a 15-year minimum. So that is a huge distinction. This is the best-case scenario, in my view, for the defense. A lot of us opined yesterday that when the jury asked for a readback of Cassie Ventura and Daniel Phillips, one of the escorts' testimony, that read perhaps negatively for the defense. The jury was digging in to see if there was that force, fraud, or coercion. Clearly, it went the other way.
And it's interesting because the prosecutors had told him you don't have to find force, fraud, or coercion on every single instance that he did this, right? You only have to find one. It doesn't have to be that this happened every time. But for the racketeering, you really did need to find a pattern of behavior. You needed to find a criminal enterprise that he engaged in with other people. Right? When people think of racketeering, they think of the mob. They think of running drugs. They think of running guns. Now,
I mean, they also think of rappers as well, considering that this is what they tried to do to Young Thug too.
Federal prosecutors have used a far more expansive view of racketeering, especially in recent years in SDNY, right? Because they want to bring in all of the worst evidence. They want to stretch back the material decades ago. And so you've talked about how it allows them to tell a full story. Well, it turns out doing that in this case did not fulfill what the prosecutors had hoped, because obviously they have now cleared him. They have acquitted him of that top charge of racketeering. They have acquitted him of the two other charges of using force and fraud, despite having that video, right, Misty? We talked about that video being so damning for him, where you see him on tape pulling Cassie Ventura by the hair. You see him stomping on her. The jury heard evidence that he actually paid money to a security guard to bury that video. Paid him.
Wait, is this hun pro Diddy? No. Why the fuck would I be pro Diddy, dude? What the hell? Who the fuck even is pro Diddy? Like, I guess maybe the misogyny tourists, they'll probably reach out and be like, oh yeah. But even then, the fact that he's like bisexual kind of cuts off a big chunk of the people that would be like pro Diddy in general. The only person I know who's pro Diddy is the motherfucking president, you know? Like, the manosphere guys, even before we all found out, like, the extent of the cruelty, the extent of, like, the insanity, a lot of people immediately were, like, a lot of people were immediately attacking Diddy because, like, before we found out more of the very clear disregard for human safety, they were already like, oh, he's gay. Like, it felt like that was almost seen as like a bigger crime than the actual fucking harm that he was doing to like women and men, right? And it's just like, DJ Academics maybe DJ Academics is pro Diddy. I can see that. How do you explain he got almost scot-free? I think the prosecutors fucked up, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they overextended with the RICO stuff. I mean, he clearly has a lot of money and had a fantastic defense team, you know? I'm surprised. I'm just as surprised as you are. But then again, I wasn't paying super close attention, so maybe I might have missed something. You know what I mean?
And yet it wasn't enough.
It was not enough. So when it comes to the sex trafficking, yesterday, those questions that the jury asked for the readback with respect to the testimony aligned perfectly to what prosecutors in their closing argument said were three very obvious instances of sex trafficking, because they did not have to find that it was the hundreds of times that Cassie Ventura had testified that she engaged in these freak-offs. So prosecutors pointed to these three, that testimony.
He's on video dragging a woman back to the hotel room. Yeah, except the problem with stuff like that is number one, the criminal justice system very clearly doesn't successfully prosecute people often, people that harm women often, even if it's on camera. Number two, okay, I think that there is a difference in the charges potentially, as opposed to like simple domestic abuse or domestic violence. Like, that's a much easier thing. That's a much easier thing to get across, especially because it happened on camera. But this is not about that. This is a larger This is a case that is much, much broader than simply what he was caught doing on camera. Yeah, they couldn't prove a connection between the on-tape violence and the sex trafficking.
Aligned exactly to that what the jury wanted to hear. So here's where the defense clearly broke that chain, because what needed to happen was that the jury believes that the commercial sex act, so those freak-offs, that Cassie Ventura engaged in them because of that violence, because of the force that Combs was exerting, because of extortion about releasing these.
Yeah, the prosecution was not, I guess, able to convincingly explain that the extortion and the violence played a formative role. And they literally hit again, this is why I said misogyny plays a role in this. They hit no, she was actually enjoying it and she was actually asking for it defense. It's I guess, a very hard argument to make to begin with. In the simplest terms, that's what it is. They were able to at least convince enough members of the jury that there was reasonable doubt that the victims were involved in this in a way that they were in a way where they were consenting to it rather than being extorted.
Videos. But what the defense argued was there were lots of other reasons. There was jealousy in the relationship. Yes, there was violence, but it related to these personal romantic relationships that he had with both Cassie and Jane. As opposed to being part of this mastermind of an enterprise. And you know what's interesting, Laura? So now we know, we opined about why the jury was not on the same page when it came to RICO. We said, was it because they couldn't agree on a predicate crime, or was it because they just couldn't get there with respect to the idea of this criminal enterprise, which has been very amorphous?
Are we going to see Tory Lanez as defenders? Yes, but the manosphere, I think, is like of two different minds here, because on the one hand, the manosphere loves when like men who get accused of sexual deviancy, sexual assault, sexual harassment get off. They love that shit, and they will join in on the pylon regardless. But also, a lot of those dudes are homophobic. So Diddy being bisexual puts a little bit of a fucking stopgap on it. Like because they've been using, that's the reason why people have been using like, oh, no Diddy or Diddy freak-offs as like as a way to say like no homo, as a way to point to like queer behavior in general. So while they hate women enough to like kind of use this as a celebration, I think it would give a lot of people pause to fully come on board, especially because like Diddy's reputation has been permanently tarnished as a direct consequence of you know, being out and about openly bisexual.
During the course of this case from prosecutors hasn't really defined what it is or its purpose. And the answer is, it's that. It's either they didn't believe there was a conspiracy or the enterprise existed. And I say that because the Mann Act, these two charges.
Like if he was just straight and also a you know, mass rapist or whatever, they would totally fucking defend him, I think. That's it.
Are predicates for RICO. Yeah. So if they believed that there had been a criminal enterprise, that would have been enough. This would have satisfied the predicate crimes. So that means
they didn't satisfy.
The text did a lot of heavy lifting. The defense used them to make it seem like she was into it because you can't necessarily read emotions through text. New York Times did an article on them and shows the text here. A jury began deliberation on Monday over the fate of Sean Diddy Combs, who was facing charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. The jury will have access to hundreds, if not thousands of pages of evidence presented during the trial, including a year's worth of text messages that chronicle Combs' relationship with the two women at the center of the case. The trove of text the jurors have seen provided intimate glimpses into the dynamics of the two tumultuous relationships. The first with Cassandra Ventura, the singer known as Cassie. The second with a woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane. Swipe to read the selection of messages the prosecution and defense have used in court to make their case. The words sent between Sean Diddy Combs and his girlfriends have been cited as crucial evidence by both sides of the case that hinges on whether sex marathons he directed were coercive. When do you want to freak off? Lol. Lol, I'm just going up to change and put my ring in. I just picked it up. I'm always ready to freak off. Lol, lol. You tell me the day you choose. It can be whenever, question mark, says Cassie. Diddy says, name the night. The defense referred to this August 5th, 2009 exchange to try and convince jurors that Cassandra Ventura, the singer known as Cassie, was a willing participant in the freak-offs. In 2016, Sean Combs says, call me, the cops are here. You gonna abandon me all alone? Call me, please. Cassie says, I have a premiere Monday for the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. I have a black eye and a fat lip. It was time for me to go. You are sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. Please stay far away from me. 2016. Call me, help, I'm about to be arrested, says Diddy. The prosecution pointed to this March 5th, 2016 exchange, which occurred after Ventura was assaulted by Combs in the hallway of a Los Angeles hotel after a freak-off as a part of his effort to manipulate her. The police never arrived at the hotel. Like, he did some demon shit, dude. He really did. He really did do some demon shit. It is kind of wild. It's not just like gross, ew, icky, oh, gay, whatever the fuck people think. Like, he was straightforwardly beating women and making them participate in these, like, sex parties. Like, at some point, they might have actually enjoyed the sex party initially. That doesn't change the fucking dynamic, you know? There is no, like, oh, you consented once, so it's over. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work that way. You don't get forever consent. You know? Which, you know, good luck explaining that to a jury that is, of course, majority men. I wish we could jog this back to when we first started dating and just getting to know each other. Ever since I opened Pandora's box, I've never been able to close it. One night of fun turned into the entirety of our relationship. And now it's all I'm expected to do and get called for. It's hurting me because I'm so much more than being loved in the dark in hotel rooms, doing things that make me feel disgusted with myself. I'm confusing your lust for me as real love. My heart is really in this and it's breaking. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. It's dark, sleazy, and makes me feel disgusted with myself. This is September 17th from Jane, the other person that came out. My heart is really in this and it's breaking. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. It's dark, sleazy. It makes me feel disgusted with myself. I feel it's only reason you have me around and why you pay me for the house. I don't want to feel obligated to perform these nights with you in fear of losing the roof over my head. I mean, this is literally coercion, right? I don't want to keep feeling like that anymore. I'm crying as I type this. We just need to talk like adults and figure out where we'll go from here. He says, girl, stop. Prosecutors used this September 17, 2023 exchange with a second woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane to show her increasing disinterest in hotel nights. September 24, 2023. I can't even look. It will drive me crazy. Laughed at above message, Jane laughs at. You might blow up, daddy, like a locomotive, muy caliente. In its closing argument, the defense pointed to this exchange as evidence that even shortly after an episode the government identified as a time when Jane was sex trafficked, she appeared to describe video footage of a hotel night as exciting. So they made short work. They made light work of the evidence that the prosecutors had laid out by basically hitting the classic, oh, no, you don't understand. She was asking for it defense. Straight up. She was the third and was subpoenaed, not voluntary as far as I know. What the defense used to discredit her is that Diddy still pays her rent and paid for her attorneys. Law tip, it's a complicated case to prove from just a logistical perspective. You need really skilled prosecutors who know what they're doing. Tons of evidence means a jury could get bored or confused easily. Typically, federal prosecutors are on top of it. Looks like they dropped the ball here and the defense capitalized. It is a shocking display, especially considering that federal cases like this are they have a 98% success rating or something. Like, federal prosecution's pretty fucking on it. Like, it is the one group that is incredibly successful in terms of identifying exactly what they can get out of people, exactly what kind of charges they can bring up so they don't over prosecute and then end up losing. They also are pretty good usually. They're notoriously very good. So I don't know how the fuck they did that. Not if you're rich. No, even if you're rich, what do you mean? The feds. I'm about to be a criminal defense attorney, and the common notion throughout the criminal defense community is when the feds got you, they really got you. Exactly. Which is why it's like a little surprising, maybe in shitification, who knows? But even the dynamic of like misogyny being weaponized for the client here by the defense is supposed to be inconsequential considering how much evidence the prosecutors are supposed to present. But yeah, Diddy's defense team was pretty goated from what I understand. And I think it was I think it's also Luigi Mangioni's defense team too. Now, there is no underlying, overarching societal expectation between men and women in the Luigi Mangione one, so that's not going to work in his favor. But yeah, he was Young Thug's lawyer. The Young Thug case is even harder, in my opinion, to beat than this one. Like, given the evidence that we looked at with the Young Thug one, and also on top of that, the dynamic of a black person engaging in a criminal enterprise as a rapper, that is one where the societal attitude does not favor Young Thug. It actually works against him, as opposed to Diddy, the dynamic between female victims of sexual coercion and sexual assault. That dynamic does work in favor of Diddy, as we saw. But who knows? Who knows what happens to Lil Durk too in the future? I mean, the feds clearly are no longer as the feds clearly don't have the same motion that they once did. And that's what I'm seeing.
Okay, I want to go to Chloe Malas, who's standing by outside of court right now. Chloe, obviously a very emotional scene playing out in court. We don't have cameras in the court.
Yeah, that's also true. The Young Thug case was a state case. Worst prosecutors. There was a fuck ton of corruption surrounding the case that got the eventual reason for the state offering Young Thug the insane plea deal that he got. Fair. That's also true. It was super high profile in the worst possible ways. The ambitious DA also was like going after Trump, and then there was a little bit of kismet going on there as well, because like the DA was already under a tremendous amount of pressure from trying to do a racketeering charge against Trump, which I was very excited for. She should have just fucking focused on that, you know, instead of getting her boyfriend involved in some of these cases. But it is what it is. All right, that wasn't even that shitty, but that did work in that did certainly work in Young Thug's favor for definitely. You are in a video about mason jars? Wait, what? All right, let's
but we do have a team fanned out all over that building that you're looking at right now. Bring us inside the courtroom, if you will, Chloe, about what is happening in there. What is the reaction as this is still playing out and the judge thanking the jury now?
Even though there are 2 guilty counts for the Mann Act, Laura, the transportation to engage in prostitution, this is a massive victory for Combs's 8-person defense team. Tenny Garagos, the daughter of celebrity attorney Mark Garagos, who is one of the lead attorneys for this criminal case of Combs, she's wiping tears. This is a massive moment because, like you said, sex trafficking had a mandatory 15-year minimum. I mean, the prosecutors, they painted Combs as somebody that was beating women, which they owned up to, but running a criminal enterprise, and that he sex trafficked 2 of his former girlfriends, Cassie Ventura and also Jane, who testified under a pseudonym. This is undoubtedly a massive blow to the prosecution, who brought 34 witnesses. They talked a lot about these co-conspirators that they say carried out this illegal activity on Combs's behalf. I mean, you have 6 of his children in there. His mother, Janice, who has been inside the courtroom every single day. Diddy is praying. He is doing a prayer show of his prayer hands to the jury right now. I mean, I sat there in that courtroom almost every single day, and I watched the faces of those jurors, and you could tell that there were several of them that were not buying what the prosecution was putting forth in their arguments. I saw some roll their eyes. I saw some even fall asleep. Some clearly not buying what the prosecution was saying in their closing arguments. On the other hand, during Mark Agnifalo's theatrical closing arguments, there was even laughter from some of the jurors. It was very clear, Missy Maris and I have talked about this at length, that there was dissent when it came to the racketeering. And I think that it is incredibly powerful that this jury, some were unpersuadable, that overnight they were able, within just an hour, to come to a unanimous verdict on the racketeering conspiracy. I mean, again, Combs, who does not have a lengthy criminal record, this is somebody that Mann Act, it's a 10-year mandatory maximum. It's unlikely that he would get that full 10 years. So this is a man that could see a few years behind bars. Again, this is a very emotional day. We are expecting the attorneys to give.
Yeah, I saw CNN reporting people outside the courthouse pouring baby oil on each other. We are a deeply unserious society, man. It's like, brother, even if like there wasn't enough evidence, let's say, to convict someone beyond reasonable doubt that like they did racketeering or they were basically the head honcho of a criminal enterprise that was like sex trafficking women and setting up these like sex parties and extorting women to participate in them. Okay, he's still on video fucking like beating the shit out of his girlfriend. Like he's still like a sex predator. You know what I mean? Like what are you doing? Like, oh, baby oil. Like, oh, sick. I don't understand that. Like I don't understand, like even in the lightest version of events, like there's still a tremendous amount of awfulness. And then there was a judge coercing a witness to testify in his chambers without the defense being present. Insane constitutional violation of a crime. You forgot the most insane part of the YSL case. Oh yeah, that's right. I think people just have a fundamentally poor understanding of consent. Once the jurors saw the text of the women agreeing it's over, they don't understand coercion and manipulation. The victims are predominantly black women. This is a major factor. I think that definitely also plays a role in it as well. You got 8 men involved in it. But yeah, I mean, I've talked about this since the Me Too era, that like we just don't have well-defined boundaries in terms of we don't have well-defined boundaries in terms of like interpersonal relationships between men and women, and as a consequence of that, and as also a direct consequence of like really bad education surrounding consent and surrounding how to deal, how men should treat women in general because of patriarchal constructs. There is still a shit ton of dudes that don't maybe even look back at their previous interactions and look at this kind of backlash that has taken place, and instead of recognizing that like they should change the way they carry themselves, they have basically created a backlash against this wave of women demanding justice. So that's why you see so much like celebration of this kind of thing. That's why you see all the misogyny tourists as well, where people are just like, well, I could be in that situation. I have been in a situation similar, maybe not like directly similar to Diddy, right? Obviously not. That's a fucking unique case. But I think a lot of dudes just basically see this situation and go like, well, they're going to come after me too. They're going to come after me as well. What the fuck? I don't know. That's what it feels like. Can you define misogyny tourist for us? Yeah. It's something that I noticed in the Tory Lanez case, which was, especially when you look at the details without any sort of bias whatsoever, when you just like look at the details of what took place and what the criminal justice system decided to take on as an issue, given Megan Thee Stallion's like initial lack of interest in like prosecuting Tory Lanez, despite the fact that he literally shot her, like shot in her direction, shot at her, right? People, regardless of people's interest in Tory Lanez directly, because like there were a lot of people who didn't give a fuck about Tory Lanez, but they did care about like a woman that was victimized in the negative direction, right? Like people jumped on board in this case and defended Tory Lanez unconditionally because they were like, oh yeah, no, this guy's innocent. He like shot a woman. Who gives a fuck? Like this is yet again another instance where like a man is in the crosshairs. A man is under attack. Yeah, the individual were not attacked, but their perceived social caste was attacked. Yeah, it wasn't even like Megan Thee Stallion pressing charges against Tory Lanez anyway. It was a fucking state. It was a criminal case. And I feel like this dynamic plays itself out over and over again in so many circumstances where, like, this isn't to say that there is no instance where like a man has been falsely maligned. I'm sure it happens. But the overwhelming majority of times is like men not being prosecuted for things that they've done that is prosecutable, or men getting away with doing heinous shit to women. That is like, it's entirely slanted in one direction. And I think the only reason why a lot of people basically fucking unconditionally support men in every single one of these cases is because they fear that they have found themselves in this tricky space of navigating interpersonal relationships with women, and they think they have also done things similar, and possibly some have done things that are similar, right? Harmed women in this circumstance as well. So this is like, this is what it is. Chances are, if you're worried that they'll go after you, then that's probably pretty likely you did some sleazy shit. Like there is a, I think, an exaggeration on their end as well. Like because they're not fucking random dudes that are defending fucking Diddy, are not defending Diddy because they also have done racketeering and potentially extorted women to do sex trafficking over fucking state boundaries. Okay, that is a hyper specific 1%er style crime. Okay, it is the energy involved and the battle lines that have been drawn that people see themselves on one side of this versus the other. No, it's not even aspirational. These people are not thinking about it like that. They're thinking about it as this, okay? I've been in a situation where I wanted to have sex with a girl and she said no to me, but maybe I was a little pushy and maybe I was a little rude, maybe I was a little creepy. What if I would go to jail for that similar thing? That's what they're thinking, okay? They're not clipped. Guys, stop. You know what I'm explaining here, okay? That is just like the mentality that drives so many of these people. It's nasty as fuck to say clip it off of this. Do you understand? I think that is where that is where a lot of people's that is where a lot of people come from. That's their starting point, especially considering that, like I said, there is a lot of, like, people will say, oh, dude, consent is consent. Like, yes, this is true. But there is also still, like, interpersonal relationships are difficult to navigate, especially for heterosexual people, especially between men and women, okay? So when you're young, even when you're older, there's a lot of there is a lot of social conditioning that factors into the way that people react to one another as well. It makes things much worse, right? It's already difficult to begin with, but then on top of that, you slam on the societal expectations, the societal dynamic of, like, how women are supposed to present themselves and how men are supposed to present themselves and how what societal expectations are and what women should and shouldn't do and how women should conceive of bad experiences that they might have gone through. Like, how should they reflect on that? All of this stuff factors into the dynamic of silence that revolves around these kinds of issues. Like, on the one hand, the societal expectation is that women are supposed to be quiet in these situations, right? Like, they're supposed to be the ones, societal expectation is that women are supposed to be the ones that are not making the first step, right? They're the ones who are supposed to be receiving the flirtatious advances. And then women are also supposed to, women are taught to be reserved and not actually explain their demands clearly in a definitive way, because if you do that, then you're seen as a bitch, right? And this is a part of every facet of existence where women in the workplace also run into similar issues as well, right? So then on top of that, like, men are also taught to chase and be pushy, and all of that is all of that factors into it. And then, like, there's the expectation that, like, women are supposed to maintain some kind of, like, chastity, right? So even if they have a sexual desire, they're taught not to express that sexual desire in a forward fashion, because then there's the slut shaming dynamic beyond it. So then at that point, even if someone were to consent or were to be invested in pursuing a relationship further, they're not clearly defining that they want that, and in which case, that's the male on that on the other side of that is, like, the pursuer, and they're thinking, oh, she's just saying maybe she's being more reserved because she's worried, right? She's worried about how this looks. So then, she's just playing hard to get. Like, all of this stuff exists already as a direct consequence of the well-established gender dynamics that play a formative role in every aspect of society. So then, when you fucking slam all of that together, this is the outcome. And I'm not talking about Diddy being victim to societal expectations. I'm saying why he was able to get away with doing heinous shit, and why some men see themselves in a similar vein and will literally go out to bat and will defend these heinous perverts. Okay? And for younger boys, it's just a joke for them. It really bothers me how the takeaway from this case is that he's bad and gross because he's bisexual, not a sex trafficker. Gen Alpha and young Gen Z literally say no Diddy instead of no homo. I know. That's why I said, like, it's a unique predicament, because, like, on the one hand, I don't think anyone's gonna be, like, pro Diddy. Also, thank you for the 100 gifted subs, open presents. But not because of the gender wars issue, because the gender wars issue demands that young men defend. The gender wars dynamic demands that young men unconditionally defend and vociferously defend Diddy. But the fact that he's gay causes people to not do that unconditionally and vociferously, if that makes sense.
A press conference, the prosecutors have said that they will be giving a written statement. They will not be speaking today. We also know that the
Fawning can also appear as compliance to prevent harm. For example, if an individual knows their attacker will harm them physically if they fight back, they may comply in order to protect themselves. This does not mean that they consented to abuse or assault. It just means that they were trying to prevent the situation from escalating. Yeah.
family plans to address his children. They plan to address the public. And we do think that there could be a statement from Combs himself later today, but in a very emotional scene in the courtroom. And I just want to remind everyone that over the last 7 weeks, although there were 34 witnesses that took the stand, Combs' team not calling a single witness and resting their case in just 30 minutes. I want to describe the scene behind me now. You have what I like to call citizen journalists. These are live bloggers, Instagrammers, TikTokers, filming every single day, live streaming what's what's happening here. There is a massive crowd gathering. There's about 100 people here right now. Some people are wearing free puffy shirts. You've seen that over the last several weeks. And again, Laura, a stunning victory, if you can call it that. But it is, considering that he was facing up to life in prison for Combs and his legal team this morning.
Yeah, no question. The federal prosecutors are going to be massively disappointed with this verdict, even with those 2 guilty counts, Chloe.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay up.
What are we looking at now with regard to years? Of course, we should point out there will be an appeal. He's got plenty of money to do that, but let's take it from where it stands right now.
I think I saw recently is a cop explaining how he has to teach coercion to young men, using them getting mugged as an example. Like, you have your wallet because he threatened to stab you. It was still against your will, and that's the only way he can get them to understand coercion sexually. It's actually kind of good. That's a decent way to explain that dynamic. You might even, in an effort to not, whether because you're a victim of shock and trauma in that moment, you might even try to like make jokes with the person who is pursuing you, right? Yeah, you might even try to like have a normal back and forth conversation. So to the onlooker, if that was like documented, they could just as easily say, well, you gave your fucking wallet to this guy. You gave your wallet to this guy and you joked around with him. Okay, but what you don't see is that he had a fucking gun, you know? Yeah, you might even try and use humor to de-escalate the situation. That doesn't mean that there isn't coercion in that circumstance. There's certainly coercion in that circumstance. Consent was explored by the psychological expert that the prosecution called. Defense picked apart her credibility by showing that she only testifies for the state and is highly paid. An effective cross can heavily discredit a witness like this, especially if the witness is saying stuff about consent the jury doesn't already know, like we do. Juries are normies. Exactly. And you gotta factor in the demographic profile of the jury as well. Jury selection is a massive part of this. Obviously, that's like legal teams usually have an entire... legal teams have a specific group of people dedicated to doing the perfect jury selection. And I think that this is one that heavily favored, as far as I understand, the jury, as its demographic profile, the jury heavily was slanted in the direction of defense, male majority. I think in this circumstance, like even women have the capacity to exhibit misogynistic tendencies, misogynistic opinions, as we've talked about before, because that's how patriarchy works. There are plenty of women, as we saw with like the Cuomo stuff, there are plenty of women who like automatically assume that like guys do this kind of thing. It's normal, right? Not like the oil and the extortion and the sex trafficking, but like, you know, this is a rich, famous guy. There's a rich, famous guy who's paying unimaginable amounts of money to all of these women. They should be grateful. Like, you know what I mean? Like that could be the attitude of an even older lady, for example. And then that certainly is the attitude of a lot of the men in the jury. It's way, way, way more likely that the men in the jury are going to feel that way. Okay? They also brought up how much expensive stuff Diddy bought for them to say, oh, but he was giving them so much money. Exactly.
Kira, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this. I'm not even sure if I would say there would be an appeal, because for Sean Combs and his defense team, this is a massive win. 3 of the counts that had a life sentence possibility are gone. When it comes to transportation to engage in prostitution...
From what I heard, and it's likely his defense team employed a rarely used tactic called "This Is Real," the Chewbacca defense, which is literally named after a South Park joke. This tactic is basically used to repeatedly ask questions that would be permissible under the rules of evidence, but are only being asked to confuse the jury and make them overthink things. That all being said, there are ways to get through the hostile jurors. It just takes skill and preparation, and the prosecutors fucked up. I'm just shocked because it's like the feds. That's it. Nah, for real, too many people have a "what did you think would happen" going to that party mentality. It's bogus, and the collective society is fried for so many countries. Yeah, this is one of the most prescient, long-standing parts of every country. Like most countries' culture war issues is like the gender war dynamic. It kind of goes away every couple of years, and because the state is woefully inept at prosecuting these kinds of things, then there is like a decentralized effort to take matters into their own hands, like out of an understandable, genuine desire for justice. Women will sometimes take matters in their own hands. That's how the Me Too movement happened. And when that takes place, there's also like a pendulum swinging in the opposite direction as well. There's also opportunists like the Time's Up movement, people that literally work with Andrew Cuomo that like basically tried to to use this real, genuine concern as a means of like career advancement. But then the pendulum swings in the opposite direction. There's also people who are getting articles written about them that is seen as like a career death sentence, I guess, quote unquote. And then that is, and it's not over like any sort of serious violation, but instead is treated with the same severity. And then the cultural pendulum swings in the opposite direction, and then you have the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp stuff, and now we're officially in the post Me Too era, where the pendulum is officially swung in the opposite direction, and people are getting incredibly vicious, like with the Andrew Tates of the world, with the Manosphere. People are getting incredibly vicious for perceived slights, and are actively defending men across the board. Unconditionally, without even like looking into it, without even addressing any of it. And it's like it's swung back into the previous standard that was in place already before the Me Too movement. Do you know what I mean? Do you think they intentionally flubbed this so that any potential blackmail shit will stay hidden? No, I don't think P. Diddy's level of like sex party shit was actually being done in a similar fashion to Jeffrey Epstein. So no, I don't think that. Like, I don't think P. Diddy or Andrew Tate are like Jeffrey Epstein style sex traffickers. I don't think that they're playing the same fucking role. Like, I don't think that that's what's going on. It was, mate. Okay. Like, it's similar as far as like crimes being committed. It's not similar as far as like what the goals were here. Okay? You can't compare. Jeffrey Epstein is like truly a unique figure as an asset for intelligence, for numerous intelligence communities, especially Mossad and the CIA. That I believe that Jeffrey Epstein was a sexual blackmail operation and a fixer of sorts as well. But a person that was like the glue for a lot of the societal elites, down to like fucking royalty, okay? That is an entirely different standard that I don't even know if we'll ever find another version of that. No reason to think Diddy wasn't the same for Hollywood. No, I think there is what? I feel like you have a little sampling bias. Your job is mostly looking at reactionaries doing things like essay or worse apologists. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think normie discourse ain't tainted to that degree. No, I think normies have a really slanted opinion on this kind of stuff where they're just like, I don't really get it. Yeah, a rich guy was doing sex parties. It's weird. It's gross. But like these women were probably asking for it is probably the most common normie attitude on this stuff. Like most normies when you look at it are grossed out more so by Diddy doing these freak offs, but also not only doing freak offs, but also like doing them in a way where, I mean, he was doing gay shit too. Cassie is opposing Sean Diddy Combs' release from federal custody. Miss Ventura believes that Mr. Combs is likely to pose a danger to the victims who testified in the case, including herself, as well as to the community.
The minimum is nothing. There's a theoretical possibility that he walks out on probation. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, but the max is 10 years. Even if you were to take both sentences, and he's not going to get 10 years, they're going to look at his criminal history, mitigating circumstances, aggravating circumstances, and I would assume that he'd get somewhere in the middle ground, maybe like 3 to 5 years, 3 to 6 years possible through that sentencing range for each count. Sean Combs going to trial where he was facing life and being able to walk out with something under 10 years, well under 10 years possibly, that is a victory. Will he appeal? Sure, that's his right to do so, but I don't see an appeal here. I think you take this as a win. You serve the few years that you may get, and you be happy that you didn't get life. I'm somewhat shocked as to the trafficking for Cassie. I thought that might have been a stronger case for the government. I didn't think that they had the RICO, and I definitely didn't think they had the Jane trafficking, but this is, I think it only so many words, and I keep saying it, I think this is a positive result for Sean Combs and his team.
Knowing what we know about what happened and how he treated these women, and now looking at this outcome,
they're saying it's a victory for the defense, which is true, Chatter. He's not saying it's a victory for women. It's clearly not. What? Extortion doesn't need to be geopolitical to yield power. Mock it all you want, but think it through. Dude, I'm not saying he wasn't doing extortion and no, you're misunderstanding me. I'm simply stating that the Jeffrey Epstein sexual blackmail operation was infinitely more sophisticated than a rapist, perverted Hollywood sex trafficker. Okay, that's like the scope of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing is like far different than what Diddy was doing. They are on an entirely different plane of existence. And I was only saying this as a direct response to a chatter speculating that maybe they did a piss poor job of prosecuting him because you know, he's an asset or something. And I'm saying I don't think that's the case. Like Harvey Weinstein would be more of an equivalent or closer equivalent in terms of power and magnitude, but like, but that even then it's not. Even then, I don't think it's like a blackmail operation. You're so bad at explaining your points. Wait, what? What did I? How? What? I don't know. I feel like chat gets it. Maybe you didn't, but I can try and explain it again.
Acquitted on the most serious charges. Your overall thoughts moving forward about what this says about the Me Too movement, the power of a music mogul when he has money, when he has fame. Your thoughts?
So my thoughts, I think, I try to go beyond just being an attorney, and I'll try to sidestep them and just talk as a man, as an adult. I think there can be no mixing of words as to what Sean Combs is when it comes to the treatment of women. Full stop, period. There's no question as to what we saw in terms of the strength of the women who took the stand and testified about the abuse that happened to them. There's no question about the photos we saw of Cassie in terms of the bruising of her body, the bruising of her face, and the violence in that Intercontinental Hotel. Full stop. There's no justification of that. There's no explanation of that. And I think in terms of the Me Too movement, there should be strength in the fact that those women were believed in terms of what they said. Putting my attorney hat back on for a moment, I think the difficulty of this and what may be perceived, and I hope it's a perception and not a reality, of the Me Too movement taking a step back based on this verdict, I think it comes from the overreaching of the government in this case, of trying to fit the allegations of this case into a RICO conspiracy, made it that much less palatable for the jury to take what they were saying to be true. And I think that might have also affected, in some way, shape, or form, the trafficking as well. I'll be honest, I'm somewhat shocked that they did not find Sean Combs guilty of trafficking Cassie because of the violence there. But I think that they made a mistake of not understanding the difference between a brutal domestic violence relationship in which Sean Combs participated in and was in many regards an aggressor of, if not the absolute aggressor of, and trafficking. And I think the overreach and misapplication of what 12 people in the Southern District of New York, or what society would believe to be trafficking in RICO, that misstep and misperception is what led the SDNY here. The SDNY has phenomenal prosecutors, has a phenomenal office, and their record speaks for itself. But I think in this case, they overestimated the strength of their case, and this is what happens when a jury speaks.
A rapper filmed and photographed in the public eye for decades, now for the past few weeks, only seen through the eyes of a courtroom artist. It took 28 days of testimony and 3 days of deliberation for a jury to decide the fate of Sean Diddy Combs. A man who 2 years ago...
Yeah, Southern District in New York is one of the fucking best prosecutorial teams in the country, if not the best. Like, they take out financial criminals. Like, they have an incredible track record. So this is also a major stain on that reputation as well.
Was given a golden key to the city, where he's now been locked up for prostitution-related offences. But he was cleared of the most serious charges.
Like a free black man America.
That decision was seen as a victory by Combs' supporters outside the court.
Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Dude, what the fuck, bro? Yo, when I see stuff like this, I just want to fucking defend him. Come on, Ben, let him. Okay. I just like, when I see stuff like this, I truly, I'm like, I want to just like reset. I want to just like tap the fuck out. I don't want to be a part of society anymore. Like, I want to live like a goddamn hermit. I don't know if I'm the only one who feels this way, but when I see motherfuckers like behaving like this and not feeling a sense of shame, and also on top of that, feeling a sense of justice and purpose in their completely distorted view of the world, like we have let the crackheads become the main fucking figures of society, and every day it gets worse. Every day, every fucking day. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like it makes me feel like I don't know if I want to be a part of this this journey any longer. I want to. It almost causes me to feel this like deep sense of nihilism that wants me to just like pull in and protect my immediate friends and family members and just like move out of this space and stop participating in this shit. Obviously, I don't lean into this tendency. It's an inherently reactionary one as well. It's like what conservatism is all about. But like, goddamn, dude, what the fuck is this? How is this any different than the Supreme Court order on an injunction? Hammer of justice is sometimes stupid, my man. No, I know, but it's not simply the stupidity or the lack of justice in this circumstance for the victims, but it's also like the shameless ways in which people go out and defend it for totally separate, self-involved reasons. Do you not understand? Like when you see this kind of thing, like you should be embarrassed to want to fucking cheer it on, dude. Like what the hell? Like motherfuckers putting on a Sean John t-shirt to be like, dude, I fucking love P. Diddy, dude. Yo, let me go to your sex parties, king, please. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What is that? I mean, what actually is that? Who does that? No one is cheering it on, but instead they're hitting record? What?
As well as his family, their smiles evident.
You can't handle the truth.
But the reaction was also heated.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We want to hear from you.
One of the key witnesses in this case was Combs' former girlfriend, the singer Cassie Ventura, who accused him of more than a decade of abuse.
Like, that's crazy, man. He's on camera. He's on fucking camera beating her. Like, this is a person who was closely associated with this individual. Like, like, how is that? I don't understand how you look at this and you go, nah, I don't think she's got. I think she has a secondary cynical purpose for this. It's like, I don't get it.
This shocking video from 2016 showed him beating her as she fled a hotel. She testified that she was escaping from one of his sex parties. The prosecution's case centered on those parties, what Combs called freak-offs. And Miss Ventura said she was plied with drink and drugs, as seen in government evidence. She also said he would then force her to have sex with male escorts in events that often lasted days. She alleged he would often masturbate or film the events, later using the videos to threaten and control her. Raids on Combs' homes in Florida and California last year found evidence of these freak-offs, with federal agents finding drugs, weapons, and copious amounts of baby oil. Miss Ventura brought a separate civil case against Combs for the abuse 2 years ago, but her story was not unique. Another ex-girlfriend read about Miss Ventura's story at the time and sent a text to Combs saying, "I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma." She became the other key witness in this federal case, known to the court as Jane, having asked for anonymity, and her and Ventura's testimony were key to the prosecution. But the case was not strong enough to convict Combs on all counts.
Count 1, not guilty. Sex trafficking, not guilty. Transportation.
So the
Sex trafficking. Like using terms like grape, unaliving people, sex trafficking. I'm done. Dude, we're fucked. State of disrepair is done.
The verdict from the jury has just filtered through to the street outside the courtroom, and you can feel the buzz, because this is what the jury decided. On 2 of the charges of transportation to engage in prostitution, guilty on those 2 charges for Sean Diddy Combs. But on the 3 other charges, 2 of sex trafficking and 1 of racketeering conspiracy, the one which the jury really struggled with yesterday, not guilty on those 3 charges.
Yeah, unless you're like an actual family member, even in which case, like, you should probably not be celebrating. You should feel a sense of shame, a deep sense of shame. But unless you're like an immediate family member of Sean Diddy Combs, like, what the fuck are you doing celebrating this shit? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand the team sports mentality on this stuff. Like, are we as a society so fucking broken that, like, we need a sense of community over, like, defending people who are doing sex crimes? Like how is that? Like, how? What the fuck? How does this happen? How does this happen? How do you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I fucking love this shit, dog. Yo, this guy, like, people who don't care about the music, people who don't care about the art, people who don't care about, like, who have no personal emotional involvement in like Sean P. Diddy Combs' life, that are simply joining the team sports mentality on the basis of the harm being done to women, blow my fucking mind.
We're pleased that he's finally been held responsible for 2 federal crimes.
Black community feeling like only black men are targeted. I mean, there's a truth to this, except you also have to, just stick to your politics. This isn't your style. One person cannot be convicted of RICO.
That he's never.
Y'all are so judgmental and smart, but don't know the law. You should speak. You think this is not politics? Like, I'm confused. I'm talking about the political aspect, the gender dynamic. I'm talking about misogyny. I'm talking about patriarchy and how it played a formative role in the defense being able to actively pick apart the testimonies of numerous victims. Like, what do you mean? And as far as like the black community feeling like only black men are targeted, I don't even think the black community overall, there's like some, from what I've seen, there are some elements that said that like there's a classic take that sometimes happens where people will be like, oh, he wanted this black celebrity wanted to buy a predominantly white asset, right? Like an NFL team, or he went after the Rock Nation, like, and Jay-Z is like the Illuminati, and that's the reason why he's being targeted, or he wanted to buy a record label, and then that's the reason why he was targeted like this. Like, this happens as well. I would go so far as to say that this was incredibly, this kind of like reaction was incredibly limited. Yeah, because he wanted to make his own liquor brand outside of the big brands or whatever. But like that kind of reaction was like fairly limited in this circumstance. I think the reason why it was fairly limited is because Diddy also is like broadly seen as a pervert for some understandable and good reasons, because he is one, but also seen as a pervert because he's queer. He does gay shit. So that kind of cut away at some of the defenses that he would, under normal circumstances, experience.
Facing his life, he still faces substantial jail time. Of course,
there's also he doesn't get that. That's also true. He doesn't get that cover from the black community because we've always heard shady shit about him, and some of us think that he got Tupac and Biggie killed. That's also the other side of it too. Like, Diddy's been seen as like a demon for quite a long time as well. There's also the other side of the story where people think that like he actively grooms children. Like child celebrities, like there's the Justin Bieber stuff as well. So there's been a lot of anti Diddy sentiment all over, and especially in the black community as well. For that reason, Usher, that's another. Yeah, Usher is the other example that people use, and it's been going on for decades. So I don't think you'll see as much overwhelming support for P. Diddy in this situation, even though the gender war dynamic still exists.
We would have liked to have seen a conviction on the sex crimes in RICO, but we understand beyond a reasonable doubt is a high standard.
That Combs was found not guilty on 3 of the more serious charges, one of which would have carried a life sentence, meant that when he heard the jury's decision, Combs sank to his knees. The defense had painted a picture of a loving family man. And Combs' mother and children were in the court throughout the trial. He had always pleaded his innocence, and the defense rested on the issue of consent. They said that multiple texts from the 2 women, Cassie and Jane, showed that they enjoyed the freak-offs, and that while Combs' sex life may appear unseemly, it wasn't criminal.
In the future, can't wait to see if you open up the gates.
Combs' private life is now as much in the public eye as his music, the man who became famous in the mid-1990s under the name Puff Daddy. A music titan who would become a businessman and role model. His star power brought even a young senator from Illinois into his orbit.
Listen, you're a motivating force for young people all across the country. Your music moves people.
He surrounded himself with A-listers. But when it came to this trial, the only major celebrity attending court in solidarity with Combs was the controversial rapper.
That's all you need to know, man. That's all you need to know, dog. I'm sorry. That's all you got to know if someone is on the right side of history or the wrong side, okay? Like, the only person that was coming out in defense of Diddy actively was fucking Ye, okay? What? Sorry if you mentioned it already. Just joined Channel 4 UK, 10 p.m. UK time. What does that mean? Yeah, they were apparently Combs supporters were spraying baby oil on themselves, on each other outside the courthouse. Bro, I'm telling you, it's like we are so truly fucked as a society. Like, this is so busted, brother. This is so messed up. This is insane, dude. This is the Boondocks episode playing itself out in real life. Like, this is the Boondocks R. Kelly episode in real time, dude. What the fuck? And it's like, it's partially, it's not because, like, they fucking are big fans of Didi. I think it's just clout, too. It was, like, part insanity, part clout, part misogyny tourists, you know? Chill Hassan, but yes. I mean, that's what it is. Why the fuck would you do that? Why would you publicly do this? Why would you publicly do this? Especially a case such as this one. Why would you do this? Because you're fucking mentally ill, you want clout, you're clout obsessed, and you probably don't give a shit about women in general, okay? That's the only reason why you would do this. You have no sense of shame, like no sense of self-preservation, what this looks like. I think people were always this crazy and this fucking stupid. It's just now there is an incentive for people to be this crazy and this stupid in broad daylight because they get attention out of it. Do you understand? There is a very distorted incentive structure that exists now for people to behave in this like shameless capacity. There are movements that you can get behind. There is a lot of momentum in this direction, gender wars being one of them. And that's how you arrive at this insanity.
I don't know what she's gonna do, y'all.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe R. Kelly did urinate on this woman, but America urinated on R. Kelly.
Oh. Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to do that right now because I feel like it's too jokey on a very serious situation.
Ye, formerly Kanye West.
Sean P. did Combs forever.
And that star power is why he also had so many supporters outside court today.
Because I am an avid supporter. I loved him since the 90s, like we all did. His music and everything he stands for.
And the fact that he was still found guilty on 2 charges, does that change your opinion of him?
Of course not. Will never change my view on him in any type of way.
You were found guilty. 2 charges. That's not a success. That's maybe a C+, maybe.
A case that attracted the world's attention with a dramatic ending. The judge will decide Combs' sentence at a later date. He's been spared life in prison, some solace for him. But he will still face justice for 2 charges, and that is some solace for his victims.
Well, Sean Diddy Combs was one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop and the media industry, who still faces dozens of civil lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault, all of which he denies. So how did he become so influential? Our culture correspondent Minnie Stevenson reports, and just to warn you, the report does contain flash photography from the start.
A mogul, a myth, a mirror of the times. Tonight, at the centre of a stunning fall from grace. From Harlem to stardom, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Just Diddy, the rapper in his many incarnations. One thing's for certain, Sean Combs had cultural capital, and he flaunted it to control and abuse.
Seems like yesterday we used to rock the show.
But just how power is used and protected in the music industry is now laid bare.
I've gone from Harlem to Hollywood.
Diddy's status cemented in Hollywood's Walk of Fame, embedded in every corner of the entertainment industry. Music exec, fashion entrepreneur, business icon, now convicted criminal.
Yeah. We sending this one out to all the ladies.
For decades, Diddy seemed untouchable, a symbol of hip-hop's rise from the margins to the mainstream. Sean Combs got his break as an intern at Uptown Records, but it didn't take long for him to shape the future of music.
If you don't have a strong mind and you're not mature, then you're gonna come and go in this game real quick.
In 1993, he founded Bad Boy Records. His first breakout artist, the notorious B.I.G.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
A collaboration that changed the sound of East Coast hip-hop. Diddy wasn't just a producer, he was a curator of cool.
We call it urban high fashion.
He knew how to brand success, glamour and aspiration, especially for young black America.
Anybody could wear any race, religion, creed.
From Sean John clothing to a lucrative vodka deal, Diddy expanded far beyond music, creating an empire built on image and influence.
Together, y'all heard about the world famous party.
But fame came with controversy. In 1999, while dating Jennifer Lopez, Combs was charged and ultimately acquitted in a nightclub shooting in New York. That trial marked the beginning of a shadow that would follow him for decades. Fast forward to 2023, when Cassie Ventura, Combs' former girlfriend, filed a lawsuit alleging a decade of abuse, including sexual assault and human trafficking.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you got to do that. I was f***ed up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
Though the case was settled within 24 hours, it opened the floodgates. While Diddy now faces a hefty prison sentence and the prospect of having to settle dozens of civil lawsuits, allegations of rape and drugging, which he's always denied.
You're even bored of this coverage? I'm not. I'm not at all. Is there a way to consume art from vile people without supporting them in some way? What art are you going to be consuming from fucking P. Diddy anyway? What do you mean? Like, don't worry. This is one of those unique instances where, like, what are you, a fucking big Sean John fan or a big Ciroc fan? Is that what it is? You're like, I have to get my Ciroc on, dude. I have to wear my Sean Johns, you know? Didn't this guy have like an industrial supply of baby oil in his house? Like, I feel like that alone is sus enough. Is he still looking at several years in prison? Yes, but like, if all the charges kicked in, he would spend the rest of his life in jail. Now it's like, I think it's like 10 years, but the defense will go for 5. During the red carpet clip, specifically, Cassie is alleged to have covered multiple bruises on her face and body with makeup, and people can see the bruises peeking out in those close-up pics. Yeah, 10 years max. So 20 years maximum sentence. And we don't even know if it's like going to be added on to one another. So it's 20 years or even 10 max. So it's like side-by-side sentencing. And then you can try and lower that with a decent defense team down to 5, and then you get out in 2 on good behavior. That is also, if you don't factor in, and I mean this with all sincerity, a fucking Trump pardon. Like, that's not even a joke. Like, there is also a possibility of a Trump pardon. I could totally see that. He will be like, Diddy has been a great friend. He's been prosecuted unjustifiably by woke DAs that are also coming after me in the Southern District of New York. They came after me too, just like they came after Diddy. They came after Diddy because he's a good friend of mine. I can see that. Trump also does love dropping these like little fucking bombs, these little like distraction bombs, as I like to call it. Like, I don't think he strikes Iran as a distraction, but this is exactly the type of shit that he would do as a distraction. I could totally see him doing some shit like this as a distraction. You know? That is the type of shit. That is the type of shit that he would use as a distraction, for sure. He's very good at that sort of stuff. Will Trump pardon Diddy after the guilty verdict, and can he? The answer is yes. Like, I was asking exactly to not support people like this. I also stopped listening to a certain band. So I find they're fucking racist. I don't know, man. I just, exercise your own discretion, I guess. I don't know how to answer you. All right. Let's move on from this, because you might be wondering what the distraction could be about. And this is definitely something that is an ongoing incident, an ongoing back and forth. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Big Booty Cheeks bill. A massive wealth distribution for the wealthiest in society in the form of making the tax cuts that Donald Trump actually implemented in 2017 permanent, while also simultaneously increasing the budget for Trump's immigration detention and immigration enforcement by $175 billion, that is with a B, $billion. Okay. Luckily, as I said yesterday, there is some discontent coming from the Freedom Caucus, the Tea Party psychos. They are pushing back on this, it seems. So there is some hurdles here. Obviously, if they push back and they write a new bill, that has to go back to the Senate. And therefore, it will move past the July 4th deadline that Donald Trump had put on this. So there's that. They do more for us than the Dems. I mean, they have historically done more than the Democratic Party, even when the Democratic Party itself has actually unironically tried to lower Social Security payouts when Barack Obama tried to do this conciliatory COLA, the cost of living adjustment thing to Social Security that would lower Social Security payments. The Freedom Caucus said it was not a significant enough cut and it would increase the deficit, and therefore they nuked it. In the process of this bill, in an effort to make these extra pay schemes work, they have to cut a lot. And the way they are cutting a lot is by adding unnecessary paperwork and hurdles to people who are recipients of Medicare, new work requirements and new check-in requirements for people who are Medicaid recipients, some of the poorest people in society. 2/3 of Medicaid recipients are already working, by the way. This doesn't actually improve the number of people that are actually going out and working while receiving Medicaid. This is a way to cut them out of Medicaid. I was listening to firsthand accounts of some people that basically liken this to trying to file a tax return every month, okay? 2/3 of Medicaid recipients are already in the workforce. They have a job already, okay? They already have a job. Adding additional paperwork to keep track of the work that you are doing in an effort to continue getting Medicaid is only done so you can kick people off of coverage. Some estimates state that 17 million Americans that are on Medicaid will no longer be eligible to continue their Medicaid coverage. There's also a work requirement for SNAP benefits as well. SNAP benefits that are basically $2 a meal, $2 extra a meal that some people are receiving, they won't be able to get unless they continue filing this unnecessary paperwork. The entire purpose of this is to create new hurdles in front of these sorts of welfare structures that people already rely on to survive. And as a direct consequence of this, new paperwork scheme that they're designing, they are intending to basically gut Medicaid expenditures and SNAP benefits, okay? They will then turn around and use this as a massive massive W, as many Democratic and Republican administrations have done in the past. This is always how it works. They do welfare reforms, they make it harder for people to receive welfare, then they turn around and say, see, less people are taking advantage of welfare now. That means the economy is improving. No, dude, it's not improving. You just kicked them off of fucking welfare. They still need it, but now they can't even receive it. And remember, these are some of the poorest people on the fucking planet. SNAP works out to $9 per day for food for a single person. It's not even that much to begin with, exactly. And they're doing this while greatly expanding Trump's immigrant enforcement agenda, offering an endless faucet of funds to creating new alligator Auschwitz-style facilities in every state. So you can hire more Gestapo officers, pay them better, and more expeditiously deport or issue deportation orders to every single immigrant that's working right now. So on the other hand, we are quite literally, not only are we fucking over working class Americans, the working poor that already have jobs that still are not getting paid enough from said jobs and therefore have to rely on government health care, have to rely on government benefits for food, to eat food, to feed their children and their families, okay? But also, on top of that, we are literally deporting people who don't even take advantage of those or can't even take advantage of those benefits and are basically working for pennies on the fucking dollar. We are deporting them. We're ripping them away from their families instead of like giving them the opportunity to get the paperwork necessary for, continuing to live on U.S. soil. Yeah, we're not talking enough about how the Republicans are set to spend tens of billions of dollars building a vast network of new concentration camps. If you think ICE cruelty is bad now, wait until they have billions more dollars, tens of thousands more staff, and mega prisons. Okay? I tweeted about this yesterday as well, where I said $175 billion to immigration enforcement in this bill that just passed the Senate. Americans are oblivious to what's going to happen with Trump's secret police. Americans are oblivious to what's going to happen with Trump's secret police, ICE, CBP, using immigration enforcement to put people into concentration/death camps like alligator Auschwitz. That is the future. I'm a farmer. Conservative farmers fucked around and are about to find out losing SNAP is a death sentence for programs like crop insurance. There's that side of it as well. Rural areas get double fucked. If you're a Trump supporter living in a rural area, You already don't have adequate medical coverage, okay? You don't have a hospital in an immediate vicinity. And the ones that are close enough to you rely heavily on Medicaid. In poorer areas, in rural areas, a lot of these rural hospitals rely heavily on Medicaid. Medicaid is how these hospitals get paid. So when you take Medicaid away, these hospitals are already underwater. They're already in a state of disrepair. They're cooked. Now, no more hospitals. If you had one hospital in a fucking 100-mile vicinity, now you're going to have only a functioning hospital in a big city. Okay? Same with nursing homes. 65% of nursing homes rely on Medicaid expenditure because long-term coverage is not covered under Medicare. So old people that already have Medicare need to also get Medicaid on top of that to pay for long-term care. So all of these nursing homes are going to be left underfunded as well. Bro thinks the left is the answer, noob. Your grandmother is probably going to die, and you're over here thinking like, you know what the real problem in American society is? The notion that like we could do better by our working class Americans. We could do better by every single other person by basically moving a regular American existence to a comparable state that already happens in every other OECD nation. That's the real issue here. You fucking dialed in, dude. Thank you. And then there is a snowball effect that cripples bigger hospitals and cities as well, because now they have additional fucking they have to take over the healthcare responsibility for a larger population size. Same thing goes for SNAP. SNAP pays rural farmers more money. SNAP is part of the process in which like SNAP benefits is Hassan is a D Diddy blood. What the fuck are people saying? SNAP benefits is how companies like Walmart are able to continue operating. The additional state funding allows these people to survive. It also allows these people to literally turn around and be able to purchase stuff at Walmart while they're working at Walmart. Okay? 172,200 people in Maine are on SNAP, 76,000 being children. SNAP benefits generated nearly $610 million in economic activity. SNAP lifted an average of 33,000 people out of poverty in Maine. It's so incredibly cooked. It is so unimaginably cooked. The situation is so busted. Oof. And here's what our opposition party is doing. Hakeem Jeffries posts pic of him holding a baseball bat with the caption, House Democrats will keep the pressure on Trump's one big ugly bill. Yeah, let me get an aide to take this photo. No one who's taller than me. No, even tall. No one who's taller than me. No, even taller. This is what we're doing. Chuck Schumer also earnestly changed the name of the Big Beautiful Bill, or at least struck the name Big Beautiful Bill out of the bill. So there was that as well. Just go on television and talk about what I'm saying every day, please. Please, I'm begging the Democrats to go on TV every single day and bring up farmers with you, bring up nursing home patients with you that are on Medicaid, and just humanize, like put a fucking face to the victims of this bill, please. Please do something. You have the capacity. You're a fucking representative. You are a fucking senator. Do something. Communicate how fucked up this is. What is going on? Republicans do such a great job of making a mountain out of a molehill by greatly overemphasizing crimes committed by immigrants that are marginal and ultimately statistically irrelevant, okay? That is how little heinous crimes are committed in the hands of undocumented migrants in this country as opposed to natural-born U.S. citizens, okay? Tens of thousands of murders every fucking year. America is a uniquely violent country, and the undocumented migrants are responsible for a tiny sliver of that. So every time there is a murder that is committed by an undocumented migrant, you hear about it endlessly. Why? Because Republicans will cynically, in an effort to make it seem like all the murders that are being committed are happening in the hands of undocumented migrants, will literally plaster the victims in the most vicious way possible in an effort to drive home this narrative, okay? They will literally fucking go on every news outlet they possibly can, and it works. It's an effective way to propagandize. That is precisely how you arrive at 60% of Americans being in favor of mass deportations, okay? Why are the Democrats not doing this in the opposite direction? especially because the truth is on their side. Republicans are able to create hysteria around a non-issue. Okay? Republicans are able to create hysteria around a non-issue and make it a real issue by driving this narrative into the fucking ground. But Democrats can't even turn around and take advantage of a real issue that is going on in defense of this dramatic reduction in social safety nets that will lead to people dying.
Washington and more drama over President Trump's spending bill. The Senate approved it yesterday despite concerns about cuts to Medicaid for millions of Americans who rely on it for health care. The House takes it up today, but the path may not be an easy one. Caitlin Huey-Burns has the story for us from Capitol Hill.
The bill as amended is passed.
Vice President J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote to pass the president's so-called big beautiful bill through the Senate.
Ms. Murkowski.
Republican leaders spent hours courting the vote of Alaska Senator Elissa Murkowski. She ultimately backed the bill after securing provisions for her home state.
This was one of the classic examples of like Republicans always fall in line, where Elissa Murkowski very cynically decided that the rest of the country can get fucked with the same reduction of social safety nets that she narrowly avoided for her own state. Okay? All the while she got like a whaler tax cut, but that's not the major reason, okay? The major ways in which the real reason why she like was on board with this is because she was able to narrowly avoid Alaska getting fucked in the same way, at least in the interim. Alaska will still get fucked in the next 2 years, but she was able to like avoid it for the next 2 years, okay? She made an exemption, a carve out for Alaska for 2 years, okay? That's what she got away with. That's what caused her to vote for this. And where is it? I think it was Jeff Stein, but he keeps fucking deleting his tweets. Oh, no, he didn't delete this one. Okay. It does seem worth asking why Senator Elissa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, will support healthcare provisions for the rest of the country that she thinks her state should be exempted from. That is the major point of contention here. She literally recognizes that this is fucked up for Americans, okay? She recognizes this is fucked up for her own constituents while simultaneously fucking over every other state, like voting to fuck over every other state. Yeah, she called the process agonizing due in part to the rushed timeline of the bill. We do not have a perfect bill by any stretch of the imagination, she told reporters after the vote. My hope is the House is going to look at this and recognize that we're not there yet. And I would hope that we would be able to actually do what we used to do around here, which is work back and forth between the two bodies that is going to be better for the people in this country and more particularly for the people of Alaska. She's a queen and you're jealous. Yes, it is because I am a sexist, misogynistic pig. That's why I am yelling at a girl boss, simply being a girl boss, slay queening, okay?
8. I advocated my state's interests. I will continue to do that.
But on the other side of the Capitol, some Republican House members were quick to rain on the Senate's parade.
What the Senate did is unconscionable. What they did to our bill was unconscionable. I'll vote against it here, and I'll vote.
You know what's really funny about this is that you have two different forces in the fucking House right now, in the House Republican side of things, because they are the only ones that matter, okay? Let's be real. You have some of the more moderate Republicans that are in areas where they're like, well, I don't want my fucking Medicaid. I don't want my constituents' Medicaid to get cut. I'm going to get fucked, right? You have the moderate ones that are saying that. And then you have the infinitely more important group of people who are saying the cuts are not deep enough. This actually expands the deficit. We can't do this. Because the moderates will always play ball. The moderates are going to turn around and say, oh, no, woe is me. I can't believe we're cutting entitlements. I can't believe we're cutting some of these benefits. I can't believe we're cutting Social Security or not Social Security, sorry, Medicaid and also SNAP benefits, right? But they will always play ball. They'll turn around and go, I guess I have to play ball with this. But on the other hand, you got the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Freedom Caucus, the Tea Party Caucus, the Tea Party Coalition, that will try and stop this bill from passing, or at least like dramatically change it so that it has to go back to the Senate, pushing it way past the July 4th deadline that Donald Trump presented. Okay? Simply because it doesn't fuck the working poor hard enough. Which, you know, in a unique time like this, I'll take that. I'll take it anywhere I can get it. Okay? So congratulations to the Freedom Caucus once again for potentially spiking this bill. I hope that they will make it so impossible to pass that the people in the Senate will turn around and go, yeah, we can't actually pass this. This is terrible. Please fuck the bill up. Please cut it. Think about the deficit, kings. I am a deficit hawk today, and only today. Not tomorrow, but just for today. I am the biggest deficit hawk you've ever seen in your whole fucking life, and I am begging. Yeah, imagine if Medicaid is saved by Chip fucking Roy. Oh my God. I am begging, okay? I am begging. I am so on board with this. Please, 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 please. You think about the deficit. Also, there's the other side of this where Trump made a promise that Medicaid would not be touched. But of course, we know how much his promises mean, what his promises are worth. They're worth nothing. That's why there's a whole ordeal with the Fell for It Again awards, right? New, during a meeting with the mods in the White House, moderates, I guess, in the White House, what is mods in the White House? Trump told members that if they want to win elections, they shouldn't touch Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. But we're touching Medicaid in this bill, one member responded to Trump, per 3 sources.
Vote against it on the floor until we get it right.
House Speaker Mike Johnson acknowledged the tough road ahead after the Senate's changes, including steeper cuts to Medicaid.
I encourage them to amend it.
Dude, can you imagine spiking the football on this? Because you don't think, on the one side, you have Donald Trump, who is like the fucking North Star of the modern Republican Party, right? The logical conclusion of all of this deregulatory and tax-cutting agenda of the Republican Party. Permanent investment in defending the interests of the capital-owning class, okay? And that guy is saying, no cuts to Medicare, no cuts to Medicaid, don't touch Social Security, right? Don't touch benefits, because my people rely on those benefits. I'm a populist leader. Now, of course, he doesn't fucking give a shit. He just has to say that. On the other side, you have some of the moderates who are like, well, we also don't want to, we're in districts where we might lose our power. We're in districts where we might lose our seat if we basically wipe out a decent chunk of the base by either actively killing them a couple of years down the line when they don't have access to fucking health care because they can't pay for it, because we took it away from them, because they have to do ridiculous paperwork that is directly created so that they can't get this Medicaid expenses covered. But then you have this much louder this much louder coalition that is saying we need to kill the working poor harder. What are we doing? Incredible stuff. I love the division of the diversity of real ass thinkers in both the House of Representatives and the Senate here, okay? It's amazing. You got motherfuckers unironically yelling about how little we're killing the working poor. Like, we need to melt them faster.
It is likely as possible. They went a little further than many of us would have preferred.
In a social media post, President Trump had a message for House Republicans: stay united, have fun, and vote yay. The bill would extend $4.5 trillion in tax cuts while adding new tax relief on tips and overtime pay. But it also cuts roughly $1 trillion from healthcare programs like Medicaid, which 63% of nursing home patients rely on.
So if there are changes or cuts to Medicaid, are you concerned about your ability to operate?
I would be.
Nancy Mason runs a nursing home in Martinsburg, West Virginia.
It helps to meet our operational expenses, everything from pharmaceuticals to food to utilities to recruitment of staff and, all of our wages.
Democrats are united against this bill, arguing that it favors the wealthy. And there's new analysis from the Wharton School at Penn that finds this will cost the lowest income Americans about $970 each year by the year 2030. It also finds that the top 10% of income earners.
I did the math. No tax on overtime will give me a whopping extra $23 per 8 hours of overtime. $23. Sick. The other side of this expedited process is that there aren't accurate enough estimates of how much you lose on the long run as far as the tax cuts that you're receiving, especially if you are a recipient or have family members, for example, that you take care of that are recipients of Medicaid and SNAP. So that's the other side of it, because you have to remember, for every additional dollar that you're keeping in your pocket that you're not giving to the government, they're cutting tens of thousands of dollars worth of things that the government was offering you in the form of Medicaid, in the form of SNAP. Okay? This is something that most people have no way of comprehending. They don't understand it. they immediately think like, oh, well, overtime pay is not going to get taxed. Sick. I'm going to have, $200 at the end of the month in my pocket as opposed to giving it to the government. Okay, but you lost like thousands of dollars worth of fucking healthcare coverage. Do you understand how much more you lost in this process if you are literally a part of the working class? The trade-off doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit you at all. It fucks you. The reason why they're giving you that meager, that modest amount, that marginal amount back is so you feel like you're getting something. Here's AOC driving home that point in the congressional speech that she delivered.
Gentleman's recognized for 2 minutes.
Trump's big ugly bill is a deal with the devil.
Thank you, and I thank the chairman. President Trump had issued some statements throughout this process saying and urging, insisting that this bill does not cut Medicaid. He's also said some things, he says he doesn't think I'm too much of a smart person. And I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't take a smart person to know if you're being lied to. President Trump, you're either being lied to or you are lying to the American people. Because this bill represents, in the text of this bill, the largest and greatest loss of health care in American history. 17 million Americans will lose their health care on this bill, not undocumented people, not quote unquote the disgusting term illegal, but 17 million Americans will have their health care cut from this bill. On this point of tax on tips, as one of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips, I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that text, a little bit of the fine print there. The cap on that is $25,000. While you're jacking up taxes on people who make less than $50,000 across the United States, while taking away their SNAP, while taking away their Medicaid, while kicking them off of the ACA and their health care extensions. So if you're at home and you're living off tips, you do the math. Is that worth it to you? Losing all your health care, not able to feed your babies, not being able to put a diaper on their bottom in exchange for what? This bill is a deal with the devil. It explodes our national debt. It militarizes our entire economy, and it strips away health care and basic dignity of the American people for what? To give Elon Musk a tax break and billionaires.
Dude, could you imagine more AOCs and more Zorons like being prominent speakers in the fucking Democratic Party as opposed to Hakeem Jeffrey and Chuck Schumer? Like, you don't have to love AOC. You could say she's a revisionist or blah, 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 all this and that. But just imagine if like the driving force behind the Democratic Party was the AOCs of the world. And if that was the case, if they were the center mass of the Democratic Party, then there would be infinitely more radical figures on the edges. The new AOCs would be far more left-leaning than AOC herself even. Like, AOC should be the baseline of the party. What she is saying here should be the active communication that you're hearing from a real counterbalance, counterweight, real opposition party in this country. The opportunities at that point are endless. This is why you won't see me aggressively and actively shit on the most progressive wing of the Democratic Party, because I understand that change requires a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of outside pressure, but it also needs allies from within. It needs people that have a media presence. It needs people with a podium. And those people with that podium are not always going to use it in the ways that you want them to. There are certainly disagreements that I have as well with even people like AOC. But you're not supposed to love everything that these people are doing. They're fucking politicians. They are supposed to represent us and our interests, right? And I envision a world where if the AOC-style rhetoric was the baseline for this party, the Democrats truly would be the opposition party, the successful opposition party that would prevent a tremendous amount of harm. We see this in increments when you have people like Van Hollen, Chris Van Hollen, come out and speak on behalf of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We see how quickly the public snaps back into reality. We see how quickly the media cycle changes. All of a sudden, it's contentious against what the Trump administration is doing. We have told ourselves a lie that change is impossible. And because of that, we have this expectation that like every single politician is supposed to be perfectly aligned with every single thing, every single demand that we have, not realizing that this kind of stuff moves the needle in the appropriate direction.
The greedy taking of our nation. We cannot stand for it, and we will not support it. You should be ashamed.
Here's another great way to communicate, centering workers and centering regular Americans, regular working class Americans in your messaging, centering their needs in your messaging, and how they are harmed by these sorts of bills that the Republicans are actively trying to pass.
Donald Trump said that I should be arrested. He said that I should be deported. He said that I should be denaturalized. And he said those things about me, someone who stands to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations, someone who would also be the first Muslim and the first South Asian mayor in this city's history. Less so because of who I am, because of where I come from, because of how I look or how I speak, and more so because he wants to distract from what I fight for. I fight for working people. I fight for the very people that have been priced out of this city, and I fight for the same people that he said he was fighting for. This is the same president who ran on a campaign of cheaper groceries, who ran on a campaign about easing a suffocating cost of living crisis. And ultimately, it is easier for him to fan the flames of division than to acknowledge the ways in which he has betrayed those working class Americans, not just in this city, but across this country, and the ways in which he continues to betray them. Because we know that he would rather speak about me than speak about the legislation that he is shepherding through Washington, D.C. Legislation that will quite literally take health care away from Americans. Legislation that will steal food from the hungry. Legislation that looks to build upon one of the largest transfers of wealth we've seen in recent history in his first administration and do it once again for the very Americans who already have enough. We should be fighting for those that do not have what they need to live a dignified life. That is what I will do.
The amount of coworkers I heard saying, hell yeah, man, we get no tax on overtime while not caring about everything else, like 17 million people who will lose healthcare as we benefit from great healthcare that is to the union, has made me really sad and disgusted today. Yeah, I think like the lack of solidarity amongst many working class Americans also it comes from the lack of hope and the conditions worsening overall for every single person, right? Everybody has a fuck you, I got mine mentality in this process. And they're almost proud of it too. And a part of that is because there is no, like, solidarity has yielded nothing. And there hasn't really been any real solidarity demonstrated anyway. But from their estimation, solidarity is meaningless. It's gotten people nowhere. So there is no hope. We are just increasingly atomized, increasingly self-interested. It's like Parasite. It's extra crazy because you got people in a union. Of course, when there's no real labor education and no real investment in labor militancy, you are going to arrive at people who are just so pessimistic and so individualistic that they're just like, yeah, it's great. We already have our union that fought long and hard for a contract, so we have decent healthcare, so this Medicaid stuff is not going to impact us. We are already above the fiscal cliff that kicks in for all the social safety nets as a consequence of our collective bargaining agreements. So then, you know, we get to have a little bit of extra money in terms of take-home pay at the end of the month. This is the reason why these bills are crafted in the way that they are. It is exactly to get that kind of reaction from different groups, offering some modest benefits to different groups, seemingly modest benefits. It is a way to continue dividing and conquering the working class.
And I am thankful to have the protection and to have the support of so many New Yorkers who have stood up and said how unacceptable this is, including our governor, including members of the labor movement. And ultimately, what I fear for is that if this is what Donald Trump and his administration feel comfortable about saying about the Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City, imagine what they feel comfortable saying and doing about immigrants whose names they don't even know.
Yeah.
Stand to benefit the most. Now, the White House argues that the tax cuts in this bill...
I'm a mail carrier, and I can 100% parrot the previous chatter. I try to advocate in the office, but so many people are elated about the overtime tax cuts and can't see the immediate harm it will do to the very people we serve every day, not to mention that all this furthers an agenda that will directly come after us in our unionized positions as well. That's the other thing. It's not just overtime pay, right? This is how they justified the previous tax cuts as well. The 2017 tax cuts that are supposed to sunset, right? They got that across not by saying the wealthy deserve to bring home more of the fucking earnings that they deliver year after year because they're the most productive members of society. They were able to justify that by saying you get a tax cut too. But your tax cuts are marginal. Your tax cuts are ultimately inconsequential. On the benefit side, what they are shredding is far more consequential for you and others in your situation than the $2 a month that you get. Yeah, here's the other side of this as well. What's more, in this GOP Medicaid cuts, they wrote the parts with micro tax breaks for everyday people. Example, tax on tips up to $25K, salt, etc., to be temporary and expire in 5 years. But the huge tax breaks they're giving the billionaires and corporations, they're making those permanent. They did this last time as well. But because this kind of stuff is ultimately confusing, there's a lot of confusion surrounding it. There's no good leadership on the Democratic Party side that is like effectively cutting through all of this noise and directly telling Americans like, this is how they're going to fuck you over. Americans are left rudderless. They're left confused, and they only see the like selfish, short-term gain that they perceive to be having in this situation. And then that's it. Dr. Roger Marshall, senator from Kansas, says we have set up a $50 billion rural health fund with this reconciliation bill. We are giving rural hospitals a lifeline to survive. AOC responds, the reason rural hospitals need this lifeline to begin with is because you're killing them. You mean hit and run Marshall? He ran over his neighbor?
The breaking news this morning, House lawmakers are scrambling now to get back to the Hill and vote on the now new version.
To your point, my father-in-law is a Republican ex-New Jersey judge who complains that his son never brings his kids to visit in Florida because he's always working, but he's against all handouts except this fucking no tax on overtime bullshit. Absolutely stupid. Yeah, there is a severe crisis in the collective consciousness of Americans that was born in the Reagan starving the beast era. Reaganomics never went away, even though we completely understand that it was a failure. It was an abject failure. And many people will point to Ronald Reagan as like a bad person and a responsible party for this. It still doesn't matter. There's plenty of fucking Gen X people in the lead generation that, one, think that this mentality is still good. The rising tide lifts all boats, right? That's like number one. That's one of the biggest fucking annoying tropes that you hear from that era. And then the other idea is like, oh, I don't want the government to give me a handout. I got to work hard, okay? It's like, you're already working hard. The point is the government is literally giving you less. You shouldn't even need, in a perfect working system, you wouldn't even need any sort of additional government help because you would have all of your needs covered. And some of these should not even be up to the profit incentive anyway. Some of the things that the government is supposed to offer unconditionally is offered already to every single citizen unconditionally in other OECD nations, right? Like healthcare or education. These are things that the government is supposed to provide for all of its people unconditionally. But the most damaging and prevailing attitude from the Reaganomics era is this starving of the beast. The government is this beast. The government does not actually help you at all. I'm here for the scariest words that any American can ever hear is, I'm here for the government, I'm here to help. This kind of attitude has persisted throughout time, where Americans, slowly but surely, through the erosion of the social safety nets, through the numerous decades erosion of their material conditions, have realized or have come to the conclusion that the government doesn't help them. And they're kind of right to feel that way. There is no more, there's no trust in the government, okay? Even though in many invisible ways, the government is actively working and it's a behemoth that makes sure that your fucking, for example, your meat is not tainted and it's not poisonous when you purchase it at the grocery store, or that you know when a tornado is supposed to hit your neighborhood ahead of time, right? Like those are the invisible ways in which the government is actually working. And you only recognize that it's not working when the government fails. The only way you pay attention to the function of the government is when it actually fails, and it has been failing in spectacular fashion, especially in these past couple of months. You know, planes falling out of the sky and whatnot. So Americans do not believe that the government is actually doing anything that benefits them. There's no more trust and no more belief that the government is actually here to help them. this creates a unique predicament. This makes it much easier to starve the government. Why am I giving taxes to the government if they're not fixing the fucking potholes? Okay? Why am I giving taxes to the government if they're not taking care of the homelessness problem? Not realizing that it is precisely this self-interested, hyper-individualistic attitude that has allowed the reactionary forces, both in the Democratic Party and in the Republican Party, to cut away all of these programs that were supposed to help people, that were supposed to stop someone from falling victim to homelessness. Regulations in the housing market that's supposed to make sure that the housing market is stable so that people don't actually get priced out of their housing, whether it's rent or lose their homes altogether if they were lucky enough to purchase one. But neoliberalism is so, what is this? Stop downplaying the American people like they're all fucking dumb, selfish hogs. They are hardworking, desperate, and trying to survive. Come on. Wait, what? Like, have you guys worked in customer service? Do you have a broken car? Do you have kids that need new clothes and only one job to support them? Have you been desperate? Is this selfish thought or survival mindset? No, what are you saying? You're agreeing with me. I'm describing the process in which, over the course of multiple decades, Americans have arrived at this like vicious cycle of austerity and how that has motivated them to selfish ways of thinking, to hyper-individualistic ways of thinking. That's my point. And now you have entire swaths of the population advocating for their own demise. No population of a country is just dumb across the board. They're not like stupid and selfish. They are made to be stupid and self-interested. Neoliberalism is the idea that the government should involve itself in the economy and social services as little as necessary. To Dems, that means it still provides some services. That's their minimum. And to the GOP, it's virtually no services. But they're still both interested in making it the minimum. That's neoliberal hegemony. It's not just that. It's more nefarious than that. Neoliberalism implies that government intervention is a necessity to break up state-owned enterprise, for example, or to use government intervention in order to let the free market manifest itself. That's precisely the reason why neither party will ever actually go against subsidies for corporations. That's government incentives for corporations. As long as there is public-private partnership and as long as private enterprise thrives, everyone is happy. Neoliberalism isn't like pure libertarianism. A lot of people misunderstand it. Neoliberalism is about government intervention in the direction of expanding the free market, which is oxymoronic. It makes people, obviously on its face, you're like, what do you mean? Government intervention or no intervention, right? No, neoliberalism dictates that government intervention is sometimes a necessity as long as it actually improves profit margins. This is precisely the reason why neither the Democrats nor the Republicans will oftentimes go after subsidies for all of these major corporations. Like, for example, under the Trump administration or any other administration, this has happened in times of crisis, right? Obama, 2008, restoration project for the economy. What did we do under Obama? We offered bailouts to companies that directly went back to the corporate structure as opposed to overtaking some of these companies and forcing the state to operate them in the same way that like the FDIC kicks in when a bank actually is on the verge of insolvency, okay? We didn't do that. We didn't do an FDIC-style measure because that was terrifying. How dare we fucking regulate adequately these companies that were engaging in predatory loans and knowingly fucking crippled the housing market, knowingly destroyed the housing market, created this massive bubble, right? So, on the other side of things, when COVID took place, Donald Trump also did the same thing with Boeing and with all of these other major corporations. Instead of saying, hey, you guys did not take the adequate measures and take a more defensive posture, and instead took all of this money and then used it in the form of stock buybacks, which once again, shouts out to Ronald Reagan, used to be illegal. Since Ronald Reagan, not illegal. It used to be considered market manipulation, right? Now it's not. It's perfectly legal and perfectly permissible. Instead of government intervention in the direction of overtaking these corporations and like running them at the behest of the public, they just gave massive bailouts to these companies in order to let the pre-existing for-profit capitalist way of business to continue.
of Trump's massive tax cut and spending bill before their self-imposed
SPED means special education. He's just being ableist.
Friday deadline. The bill is becoming really something of a ping pong ball. The House voted first, then the Senate voted and made changes, and so now the House must vote again. And if they make further changes, you get where this is headed. With this, House Speaker Mike Johnson is facing another major test of his power. Many House Republicans are publicly voicing serious doubts about the Senate changes. That includes steeper cuts to Medicaid and a nearly $1 trillion increase in the deficit over the House's version. Johnson can only afford to lose 3 GOP votes. The Speaker says that he's confident a final vote could come today, but back to that scrambling, they're literally also scrambling to physically get back to the Capitol as bad weather canceled a whole bunch of flights for many lawmakers that are trying to make it back in. Here's the Speaker last night.
Well, we're having weather delays getting everybody back right now, but assuming we have a full House, we'll get it through the Rules Committee in the morning. We'll move that forward to the floor, and hopefully.
It's crazy that like the average person's capacity for change here is basically akin to a fucking peasant in the medieval ages, just opening up your hands and demanding that the sky gods do divine intervention. Like that's the maximum amount of power that we have. We just like sit around, right? This is supposed to be a democracy. There's supposed to be a structure of pressure, a mechanism of pressure, a mechanism of pushback, a social contract that demands, that dictates that the people that we are voting into office are supposed to represent our best interests, right? But instead, we have the exact same structure that the fucking the peasants had in terms of implementing change in the goddamn feudal monarchies, where we just have to hope that like God takes care of it, okay? Some divine power takes care of the problem. Shut the fuck up. I voted for this. You did? You voted for this? You voted for 17 million people getting kicked off of Medicaid coverage? You voted for your grandparents to no longer be able to fucking live in a nursing home? I'm a masochist. It's so funny. When people learn about what's in this bill, by the way, it becomes immensely unpopular. The only reason why there's any sort of fucking confusion here or any sort of like any sort of defense of any of these measures in here is because most people are oblivious to the downsides, to the immediate negative consequences that are baked into this big, beautiful bill. And therein lies the problem with messaging on the opposition party, the Democrats.
We're voting on this by tomorrow or Thursday at latest.
CNN's Arlette Saenz is at the Capitol for us this morning. And Arlette, it did make it through the Rules Committee while we were all sleeping. So set the stage for what is going to happen today.
Well, Kate, it could be another long slog ahead as lawmakers are 2 days away from that deadline to pass President.
Brandon Duke, tax budget nerd, Center on Budget, former Biden-Harris National Economic Council tax budget supply chain guy, okay, says this bill will make 60% of the country poorer so we can shrink the economy by 4.6% over the next 30 years is one heck of an accomplishment. This is what the Penn-Wharton budget model found. We estimate that the Senate-passed reconciliation bill increases primary deficits by $3.1 trillion over 10 years. The dynamic cost, including changes to the economy, is larger than $3.5 trillion. GDP falls by 0.3 in 10 years and falls by 4.6 in 30 years. So it doesn't even do the thing that Republicans will cynically claim it does, which is to expand the economy. I mean, I personally don't give a shit about all that as much, aside from the actual impact that it will have on the working poor. But that also adds insult to injury. That is the great irony here as well. Incredible stuff. Will China bail us out? Is this good? No.
Trump's domestic agenda bill. As you mentioned, it passed through the Rules Committee just last overnight, clearing a key procedural hurdle. It received 2 no votes from Republicans, Chip Roy and Ralph Norman, who have expressed reservations about this bill. But this will be a major test once again for House Speaker Mike.
Hey, at least billionaires will be richer, you stinking socialist. True. My bad. My mistake for not talking about the real minority, the only minority, the real POWs, okay? The real POCs, people of capital, the real POWs, people of wealth. Okay, my bad. My mistake. Get your money up, not your funny up, guys. Wow, I guess you don't care about minorities. You know? After all, what is a bigger minority than literally the top 1% of the 1%?
Johnson, as he is trying to hold his GOP conference together to get this bill across the finish line. Now, there are various factions that they are trying to appease here. There are those more conservative lawmakers who believe that this does not do enough to cut spending, and there are others who are concerned.
That's my favorite type. That's my favorite archetype. Guy who's like, we need to melt more poor people. And it's such a weird predicament that, like, those are the guys who have the most motion. The ideological zealots that want to fucking basically strap an IED to this fucking bill because it doesn't kill enough poor people, and those are our only fucking option of spiking the football, at least so that people can hopefully communicate how devastating this bill is in the long run. Taking advantage of congressional gridlock, hopefully with a competent enough opposition party.
About the steeper cuts to Medicaid that were made in the Senate plan. So that highlights the various ways we're going to have to try to stitch together support to pass this bill. Now, any changes that are made to this bill would then require it to go back to the Senate, and that is something that House leadership and President Trump are trying to avoid. But here's a sample of some of the concerns about the process, about the bill itself, that have been expressed by GOP lawmakers over the last 24 hours.
So this whole thing is, I don't know what to call it. It's a show.
My colleagues in the Senate failed us.
My goat. Talk to him, Chip. Talk to him, Chip. Talk about how little the working poor is being killed in this bill. And more working poor must be killed, okay? We need to put more orphans in the orphan crushing machine. Not enough orphans are in the orphan crushing machine. Talk to him, Chip. My goat.
My colleagues in the Senate failed us.
I think the founders and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence would be astounded they were adding debt to our children
Yeah, more debt. This is unacceptable. We need to cut more. We need to cut more of the expenditures. I think we should just make it illegal for there to be government-funded health care. Take it out, I say. The only money that the government should be spending is bullets for the military to line up every person that makes less than $250,000 and shoots them dead in the fucking head. They are not productive members of society. And if they want to be productive members of society, put them in a concentration camp and make them work for their meal. That's right. That and more bombs for Israel. Am Israel high.
children who are defenseless.
Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson can only afford to lose 3 Republican votes on this measure, a very narrow razor-thin majority that he is operating with. And we've already heard about dozens of lawmakers express concerns about this bill. Another issue that leadership is facing in this moment is that storms across the East Coast had delayed or canceled many of lawmakers' flights who are trying to return back to Washington. In fact, there are Democrats like Congressman Krishnamurthy out in Illinois, and then Republicans like South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who are physically driving to Washington to make sure that they can be here for this vote. The House right now is set to open at 9 a.m. At some point, there would be a vote on the rule related to the bill before they move to debate and then vote on final passage. Of course, it's not a guarantee that they will get the votes on that rule. So
do the rain dance. Do the rain dance. Pray to the gods. Pray to the gods that bad weather conditions don't permit enough congressional representatives to get into Congress to vote. We're praying for the rain dance, baby.
There will be a lot of high-stakes drama to watch over the course of the day as House GOP leadership is trying to muscle this bill through the House to get it on President Trump's desk by Friday.
Arlette, thank you so much for kicking us off. It's going to get very busy there very, very soon. Put on your bingo card, guys. Weather delays adding to the fun.
I was going to say road trip, congressional road trip.
We do love a road trip.
Yeah, what could be more fun than a drive from Chicago to vote on this bill? All right, this morning, a senior White House official says that President Trump has already been working the phones trying to get House lawmakers to pass what he calls everyone's bill. The president is urging Republicans to unite and ignore the occasional grandstanders. Let's get to CNN's Kevin Liptak at the White House this morning. Where does the White House see things right now?
Yeah, there continues to be a lot of confidence in this building that this bill will eventually pass. Trump himself just said yesterday that he thought getting it through the House would actually be easier than the Senate. Despite all of this opposition that you see bubbling up, I think the gamble that they're making is that President Trump's arm twisting, that his pressure tactics will eventually cause these Republicans to get in line. And it's not as if they don't have history on their side here. There are not a lot of examples in recent memory of House Republicans not giving Trump what he wants. And they see what happened in the Senate as kind of a roadmap. You know, there were a number of Republicans who insisted that they were against this bill, only to eventually vote yes when it came up on the floor. And so a lot of confidence in this building. One point that they're making is that they have been in continuous touch with the House Republicans throughout this process. They're not just starting to whip this bill now. They have been kind of on the hunt for votes over the last several weeks, even as the Senate was making changes. White House officials still view that Friday deadline as operable, even though President Trump sounded a little more flexible on it yesterday. We did hear from Russ Vought, who's the president's budget director, talking about how they're trying to get some Republicans in line. Listen to what he said.
If you were to take any part of this bill and just debate one part of it, you would have overwhelming support by all Republicans.